Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nupula, and today we are looking at the winning UK national deck, Burning Abyss, or as Tom Rose has called it, his Dante's Cat. Pretty much, it is a standard Burning Abyss deck with a few tech choices that are interesting to me. I did a couple of hand testings on this, and I've also did it on here on the Dawn of New Era DevPro program and see how I feel about it. I have mixed results with it, but that's probably because I'm not so much used to the Nightmare cards we have right here. But pretty much you have Skarm, Farah, Griff, Sir, Caleb, Lubick, and Barar. And of course, their distant cousin, Phoenix Rhino Warrior, and Tour Guide. They're pretty much the staples of Burning Abyss. There are a few other cards you could add in here, but that's only if you're playing your own style. But this is the deck that won, so we're looking at this right now. 3 Rescue Cats. So Rescue Cat pretty much was originally banned at least a set or two back, but then they added it, brought a reprint of it to the TCG, and it became unlimited. And pretty much you can tribute this off to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast type monsters from your deck to the field, and they have their effects negated. So Gallus, the Star Beast, is a beast type, and he's a level 3. He can be special summoned by sending a monster from the top of your deck to the graveyard. If it's a non-monster, you can't special summon him. Otherwise, do 200 points of damage to your opponent equal to the monster that was sent from the top of the deck to the graveyard by its level. So he can do some hefty burns to your opponent, but he's also can be used to bring out Dante. He can also bring out Link monsters, or in this case, this guy here, Elfin. I don't know if that's correctly pronounced right, but he is a beast, level 2 Earth Tuner. Now, his effect is when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can select one of your level 3 or lower beasts, warrior beasts, or wing beast type monsters that is removed from play and added to your hand. Now, that's not important because more than likely you're never going to run a scenario where you're going to want to use this effect. What you're doing here is you're using Rescue Cat to get out Star Beast and Elephant to the field to either link summon or go into Notoria Beast, which is pretty much what his strategic strategy was from what I remember seeing from his deck profile. He stated that he could get Notoria Beast at least 10 times within the game, within the entire event. So that's kind of impressive. And this is an interesting tech choice for this deck. I've seen the Star Beast used before, but I've never seen Elephant being used in this deck. So that's actually a game changer right there for a lot of Burning Abyss players. Some might have tried it, but they never really mentioned it before. But I always thought this was a bit interesting when I first saw it yesterday. So Fairy Tale Snow is a one-of in this deck. It's obvious you're milling stuff to the graveyard. You can get more than enough cards to bring her out from the grave. And she can be used as a discard fodder for the Nightmare Link monsters. Blacklist Soldier Envoy at the beginning. You got 3 of these in here. So he is the boss monster of the deck. You have a mixture of light and darks in your main deck. You also have earth and fire and wind, but the light and darks are what are important here. So you can actually bring 3 of these out in one turn if you're lucky enough to do so to game someone. But other than that, you can just go into Tory Beast, slow the game down if you want to, or speed it up, depending on what you want to do. Now, I personally have never used more than 1 in this deck before, but I can understand why he did it. You have more than enough resources in your main deck to actually summon these, so it's actually a good call on his part. Plus, you want to get rid of as many of the nightmares that your opponent has on the field, if you can. Ash Blossom is, of course, a staple in this deck anymore. Pretty much anything that allows you to add cards to your hand or special summon from the deck, or add cards from your graveyard to your hand, or send cards from the deck to the graveyard, I'm sorry, stop that crap and prevent it from happening. Draw the Lockbird pretty much is a slower version of a floodgate for drawing cards. Pretty much whenever your opponent adds cards from their main deck to their hand, except during the drawing phase, of course, you can send this to the graveyard, and for the rest of the turn, they cannot add cards to their hand except by drawing them. So my only issue with this card is that you have to wait till your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand. So once they do that, you can discard this to the grave, and for the rest of the turn, they can't do anything in terms of adding cards to their hand, with the exception of drawing. But sometimes that one card they've already gotten is more than enough to set off everything else. However, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So no ifs, ands, or buts about it right now. Effect Veiler F3, that's seen more and more play nowadays. Ghost Ogre is not as powerful as it used to be. You're wanting to use these because they are not a once per turn effect, and your opponent more likely is either going to be running Goshki, or they're going to run Trick Stars. So you want to stop that as much as you can. This guy, Ancient and Ascended, he is in my Super Heavy Samurai build of recent years here, and he is used now in Burning Abyss. He is what I call the second Effect Veiler. He pretty much does exactly what these do, but the only exception here is that he negates the activation of effects that target your cards. And by sending him to the graveyard, he negates. He does not destroy him, he just negates. So he kind of bypasses anything that will protect against destroying cards. And Light is Saki, or Saki's Light, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Saki's Light is in the American translation. This is one of those cards I never thought Burning Abyss would use. I've seen people want to use them and everything like that, but I think this is the only time you're going to be able to do it is doing a Monster Mash build, because there's always going to be a chance if you run this in the standard build of Burning Abyss that you're going to play this and then you draw into something that you could have used beforehand and you can't play it because it was a spell card. But being able to use this to get +2 draws and being able to draw another card by sending one card you don't want from your hand back to the deck to draw a card by banishing this from your grave at the same turn you activate it is pretty good. However, in all my play tests and everything like that, I kept drawing the same card that I sent back to the deck more times than not. So that's where one of my mixed feelings about this is. Now, we're going into the extra deck. Barrel Dragon, pretty much a staple at this point. He can prevent your opponent from OTKing you because he can activate his effect to reduce an attack and defense of a monster on the field by 500, and they can't respond or activate effect against that. Also, he cannot be targeted by monster effects, and if you can run people over with it, or you can capture one of their monsters, that's probably plaguing you, and put it on your side of the field for until the end of the next turn, and then it goes to the grave. So Decode Talker is a link-free staple right now. Unicorn is becoming more of a staple nowadays. You can pretty much target, or when he's link summoned, you discard a card, you target a monster on the field, and you shuffle it back into the deck. I'm sorry, a card on the field, and you shuffle back into the deck. And if he's co-linked to another link monster, you can draw a card. They all have that same effect. If they're co-linked when they're link summoned, you draw a card at the end, but they all have different effects. But Nightmare Phoenix, you can target a trap or spell card on the field and destroy it. Cerberus, you can target a special monster your opponent in your opponent's main zone, destroy it. And Underclock Taker, pretty much you target a monster you control and a monster your opponent controls. The monster loses attack equal to the attack of the other target monster, so he allows you to OTK faster. And Mermaid, pretty much you can special summon a Nightmare Monster from your deck, but for the sake of simplicity, you are probably using this to keep extending your plays. Nightmare Shark is pretty much, a late game OTK. You can use it to do 2,000 points of damage to attack. DDD Strong King is a very interesting tech. Requires 2 level 3 Fiend types, which of course Burning Abyss is Fiend types. Its first effect is pretty much you have to you can detach material, destroy a Dark Contract card, and then you can um, draw 1 card, but you don't have any Dark Contract cards. The second effect, however, allows you to battle an opponent's monster during damage calculation, detach the material. It cannot be destroyed or take battle damage involving this card. And any monster you battle with this card, you destroy it, and then you inflict 500 points of damage. So it gets rid of Troublemaker cards that you normally can't target. It actually takes care of Borlow Dragon because it does not target Borlow Dragons, so it bypasses his ability to protect himself from targeting effects. Super Quantum Gamma Stamp pretty much is a staple now because you do have backfield on the continue and 2 Dantes is of course staple in this. Normally I would run 3, but I see where you have the less room for it. Eternal Lady, of course, is a 1-of in this deck, and she is the bread and butter for Burning Abyss now until we get the Link monster. Dante the Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss, he is good to keep your opponent from OTKing you. You can use him to draw cards while discarding like Farah, Griff, Sir, Skarm, whatever you need to do to advance your gameplay status. Notori Beast is probably very important right now, considering most decks are running spells and monster effects, so having him out quickly on the field could be a game changer. But now we go into the side deck. The Winged Dragon are all spear mode. This is for Goshkis for the most part. In case once they get their field presence, you can just summon this onto their field and just end turn if you have to, or you can just continue on yours so you can get around what they have. But this is a normal summon condition, so you don't have to worry about things like Vanity's Fiend or anything to prevent you from kaiju and monsters, because this is the older version of kaijus where you could use it for normal summoning. He also has a third of the Ancient and Ascended. For me, I would probably take out one, or I'll probably add this into the main deck to add 3 because I currently only have 2 Lockbirds right now, so I'll probably put that in as the third one. He has 2 Vanity's Fiend for the second and third rounds in a match. You probably want to play this, when you're going first, so that way you can immediately shut down your opponent from doing anything. Shaddoll Dragon, he is used for discard fodder and everything like that. However, Dante will not set him off because Dante discarding or sending to the graveyard is a cost, so he will not get his effects. So I don't know if I would even run this into the side deck or in the main deck for that matter. I probably would take this out for a third. Ghost Ogres and Snow Rabbit. He's just got this in the side deck right now, just in case if he really needs to against pendulums and stuff like that. But I don't recall pendulums being in there unless they were the 3% that I saw and the strategic value of the percentage of how many people were there. Imperial Order, you don't have to worry about this card, considering you only run free spells, and most of them can be activated in your grave. Same thing with Anti-Spell Fragment. You're not worrying about what it does to you. More your opponent has to worry about it. And Magic Deflector is one of those cards that's interesting, and you hardly see play unless it's a surprise tactic. But this card can be very devastating. Pretty much what it does is for the rest of the turn after this card is activated, negate all equipped field, continuous, and quick play spell cards that are on the field. So pretty much anything that they will try to activate, it will negate it. So the only card that does not gate is Ritual Spells. But right now we're not dealing with a ritual based format, so we don't have to worry about that. And even if we did, we have Notorious Beast to stop it. Strangely enough, what was I looking at before? I'm trying to remember because I thought of something a while back before I started recording, but I'll probably have to talk about that later. But yeah, my changes, at least for me, because I could literally build this deck. I would have to check on Elephant to see if I even have any. He's a common, if I recall, or a common rare, so he shouldn't be hard to get. Um, and I would have to check on these. I think I have two of these, but I think the supers right now are cheap, so I'll go with that. I would probably take out, like I said earlier, Shadow Dragon. I probably would take that out to either add a third Ghost Ogre, or I would add the third Anti-Spell Fragment because you want to at least maximize your potential of getting that on the second and third rounds. I'm still trying to get used to these. Like in my mind, I keep thinking of what they do, and I'm trying to get to the point where I can recognize what they do. So it's been taking me a little time. I don't know why their play style is so hard for me to get in my or integrate in my mind, but it's getting there. So Stone King is one of those cards I've seen before, but I've never thought about running this deck. I would personally probably run Utopia Hope, or is it Utopia Future? I don't remember what it's called. Give me a moment here, I'll find out. Monster, Exceed, Light, Warrior. He's classified as a rank 1, so even though he's a rank 0. Yeah, Utopia Future, that's it. Number FO Utopia Future. I would probably run that over from this as to I can actually capture their cards. However, this does destroy them, so I guess I have to figure that out later. Oh no, it's pretty impressive. I do like the ideas of this, how it's set up. It's compact enough. Excuse me. It is compact enough to where it does what it needs to do. It's fast paced, and it can actually get around Ash Blossoms. So that's actually quite improved because even if you activate its effect to send to graveyard and they Ash Blossom it, that means it'll remain in the fit and it'll remain in your hand, and you can reactivate it again. So all in all, there's no reason for them to Ash Blossom this unless they feel like that they could get burned for it. But getting to where you can special summon this, normal summon this to get into Notorious Beast is kind of ridiculous. Also, now I remember, Eternal Lady can also send Light Asaki or Asaki's Light to the graveyard during your opponent's turn if you need to. So on your turn, you can actually use it after you draw. So that's even more resources because sometimes you don't want to draw the 2 cards. You just want to be able to manage your hand to get like the side deck materials back. But if anything, I personally like this deck. I like the fact that it did win the UK Nationals. And I've said this before with Six Samurais when it comes to winning Worlds. I don't want to see this deck winning Worlds because Konami has a bad habit of just, killing everything once it wins Worlds. So hopefully it just does well enough that we'll go into Worlds, but I don't want to see him win Worlds only because I don't want Konami to be like, hey, we need to refix Burning Abyss again and start banning stuff, like maybe a Griff or something like that. But if they hit Snow, I might not care as much, but we'll have to see what happens. But hopefully, we can see more variety of decks than the 2 decks that we're currently seeing as being topping right now. So far, the UK, going to try to get this right. Trickstar Sky Striker and Goshki Star Striker are currently the top 2 decks that are competing right now and for the worlds and everything like that. Don't know what's been going on with the other circuits and everything like that, but the Burning Abyss in the UK winning their national championships is kind of interesting. So I guess we'll see what happens for that. But if anything, I thank you for all watching, and hopefully see you next time. Later.